I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and Nokia has released a Windows phone on Verizon Wireless, and it's not a mid-range phone, it's the Lumia 928, a new flagship from the Finnish manufacturer. It's available now at Verizon Wireless for $99.99 and brings a high-end Windows phone device to the nation's largest wireless carrier. Is it worth it, particularly when there's some pretty hot competition out there between the Galaxy S4, the HTC One, the LG Optimus G Pro, and the Galaxy Note 2? We'll find out in the full video review, which starts right now. The Nokia Lumia 920 was a really important device for Nokia and obviously for AT&T, but one could argue the Lumia 928 is even more important. The reason? It's on Verizon Wireless, the nation's largest wireless carrier. This is the Nokia Lumia 928. It brings a flagship, not only Windows phone, but a flagship Nokia Windows phone, or Nokia, whatever you want to pronounce it. I say Nokia, so that's what we're going to call it. The Lumia 928 brings it to Verizon Wireless, a high-end device, comparably speaking, to Verizon Wireless, which is nice because those people that were on the nation's largest wireless carrier can now get a device that they can go head-to-head with against something like the Galaxy S4 or the HTC One or the Optimus G Pro, and you know what, they can fight. And they can have a device that's pretty nice, and not only that, it doesn't break the bank. It's available now with a 2-year agreement for $99, and it comes in this nifty little white color with a white-black two-tone color, if you will. Black on the front, white on the back. Now let's do a quick spec rundown here. You've got a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU here, 1 gigabyte of RAM. You've got a 2,000 milliamp hour battery and a 4.5-inch HD display here. It's an OLED display, so it's got Nokia's clear black technology as well. Camera-wise, it's got a Xenon flash and an 8-megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording. The Xenon flash is going to be great for a lot of people that are big photography buffs, and if early indications are any sign, this thing takes great pictures. We'll talk about that more in part 2 of the review. And of course, it has Verizon's 4G LTE service. So 4G LTE in, I believe, 497 markets as of the making of this video. So if you're somebody that wants that quick speed, this is going to be a nice device for you. And again, $100. You really can't beat that price point. So up here, you got your micro SIM card slot for your 4G LTE SIM card on Verizon Wireless, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, micro USB charging port, noise canceling microphone. Over here, camera shortcut button, power button, volume rocker, the typical Lumia look and feel. And it's kind of thick on the back because it does support wireless charging. So it kind of tapers up, as you can see, for me holding it in front of the camera here, tapers up for the wireless charging capability, so you can just sit it on the charger with the non-included accessory. You do have to pay extra for that, but throw it on the charger and then pull it back off, and that feature sets you back a couple of millimeters in terms of the overall thickness of this device. Now, on here you've got the typical Windows Phone stuff, the typical Nokia stuff, and then some stuff that's unique to Verizon, at least right now. DataSense, at least when it first launched, was unique to Verizon. It is now being rolled out. I saw this on the Lumia 925 when I did the T-Mobile hands-on in Las Vegas a couple of days ago. So DataSense is moving to the other carriers, but at least right now, DataSense on Verizon Wireless, I believe it's still an exclusive. Then you've got some Nokia stuff like app highlights, and we'll go through this in just a second and take a look at some of the applications. But you've got app highlights, and then you have the camera lenses. Cinematograph, you've got a couple of others here that I saw. Cinematograph, you've got panoramic shots, panorama rather, and then you've got Smart Shoot and more. So this is big to me because Windows Phone 8, and I argued this, I've argued it in countless meetings with Microsoft and actually with Nokia as well. The lenses didn't used to come with the camera, and again, we'll talk about the camera more in part 2, but I just want to show you this. This is part of Microsoft's continuing to make it easier for the consumer. So when I go to the lenses, used to it was Bing Vision and that was it. If you wanted additional lenses like Panorama or Smart Shoot or Cinematograph, you had to download those from the store. And my argument was always, that seems really counterproductive or counterintuitive for the mainstream consumer. They may not know they're there. Right? For example, my grandma doesn't know that there are lenses even available, much less that you have to go to the store to get them. So Microsoft and Nokia were like, well, you know, we support, and it was quite frankly mostly PR speak. We support, you can't fool somebody that does PR, it's kind of a second thing. You got, you know, of course, Smart Shoot, Cinematograph, all available in the store is what they said, and they also argued that, you know what, the customer, if they want them, they can download them. If they don't want them, it gives them choice. So they pulled the choice card, which at the time, you know, I thought, well, that's not really true, but whatever the case may be. At any rate, it's on the Lumia 928 out of the box, so that's my point. And so you've got that available right there. And of course, the Nokia applications as well. You've got here City Lens, here Maps, and then Nokia Drive Beta, Nokia Music as well. So you've got some nice Nokia value-added applications. Now the benefit here, Nokia, as I say in all the videos, they've staked everything on Windows Phone 8, so it's really important to them to create an ecosystem, not just within Microsoft, but outside of Microsoft's ecosystem. So outside of SkyDrive, Xbox, they need to create a name for themselves. So if I go to the Windows Phone area, for example, why would I choose a Nokia device over HTC or over Samsung? They're really trying to work on an ecosystem that makes this device a great value add. So they've got, at least now, the carrier distribution agreements. All they need to do, in my opinion, is pick up a universal device, because they have the same problem that every other carrier is having, or every other OEM rather is having right now, where it's like, you know, I want the HTC One on Sprint, I want it on AT&T. It's the exact same device. Nokia, for example, I had the 920, the 928, and the 925, all of which feature distinctly different designs, and in some cases features as well. And that's one of the things I think is going to hurt Nokia, at least long term. Right now, they need that carrier partnership, they need that carrier marketing agreement. So it's good for them right now, but in long term, you know, let's say I want the Lumia 928, but I'm stuck on AT&T, I have to get the 920 or switch to Verizon for the 928. So that's something like we saw with HTC years ago, like we're seeing with Samsung years ago with the original Galaxy S devices. It's nice when they can consolidate one design and make it available on multiple carriers. So 4.5-inch display here, HD display, and it has the typical Windows Phone 8 quirks that I've talked about in previous videos here. For example, the keyboard doesn't go fully into landscape, so that's something that may frustrate you. What I like about this is Windows Phone 8 is fast, and you know what? This only has a dual-core processor. It doesn't have a quad-core processor, but Windows Phone 8 works well even with a dual-core processor and 1 GB of RAM. Still, little things frustrate me about Windows Phone 8. The fact that I can't opt to keep my signal strength indicator up in the top corners. It always goes away, as you're going to see it pop away in just a second. Boom. Thought I had it. There we go. And it goes away. You can't change that. Little things like that. So it's got some customization, and they made it better from Windows Phone 7. Still, there's some work to be done to make this thing a little bit less flat feeling. So I've argued this before. Android, very customizable, and in some cases laggy because of that customization. iOS, stale and boring, at least some people describe it, but you got a nice level of customization, and it goes a little bit deeper than Windows Phone 8. I feel like this is a very flat OS, and granted that may be what Apple's moving towards in the next couple of months with the latest iteration of iOS, but still very flat in comparison. You'll notice that menus only go to a certain level. They're not very deep, and that's something that you may love, you may hate, but keep that in mind as you look for a Windows Phone 8 device. Still has a great feel in the hand. Love the overall hardware here. I like the white, the two-tone white and black, and then of course my background. So I'm going to go into some of the personalization stuff and talk about that. Windows Phone 8, and if you've seen these videos, you already know this, brought in a wealth of personalization. Things like Bing and CNN and Photo, where you can choose your background. So for example, I have Bing selected as my home screen, or my lock screen background rather. So it selects a Bing picture and shows that on my lock screen. Also, I have some new colors here in the live tiles where I can change those around, and also I can change the size of the live tiles now. So for example, if I want to make this Outlook one bigger or smaller, I can do that. So I can make it small, I can make it super size, or I can make it kind of medium size, which is great for a tile like messaging, for example, because I can see message previews when it's in the large tile format. So this is something I argued since Windows Phone 7. I'm convinced that Microsoft heard my pleas and made this available for users. So you can customize this around, and as you can see with mine, really make it your own in terms of how it looks and how it feels. Let's go into messaging and take a look at that keyboard. This is one thing I've kind of struggled with on the Lumia 928, which is really weird because I didn't struggle with this on the Lumia 920. We'll say the Quick Brown Fox is happy that it is, Quick Brown Fox is very happy that it's Friday. Quick Brown Fox is happy that it is Friday, of course. Portrait landscape, nice and fast here. Again, dual-core processor, 1 GB of RAM, perfect for this software. Runs pretty quickly. What I will say though is the keyboard lags a little bit for me on the Lumia 928, which is weird because I did not have this problem on the 920. So I don't know if it's a screen issue, I don't know if it's a software optimization issue, but I am seeing some slight lag with the keyboard, and that's something that kind of annoys me on this device. And you can see every now and again it'll miss one of my words or miss one of my letters. I'm going to type as fast as I can so you can see this. Trying to say, how are you doing today? Thanks for the, and you can see it's missing a couple of the letters, and that's something that's kind of frustrating on this device. Before I go into part 2 and talk about part 2, special thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile because they give us devices like the Lumia 928 for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you walk into Best Buy Mobile to get this, you'll walk out working. They'll get your email, your web, your contacts, everything set up that you need. So when you walk out the door and go back to work or go back to the house or go back to enjoy your weekend, you're going to walk out working with everything set up, so you have to do nothing. And for a lot of people, that is really nice. Stay tuned for part 2. We'll talk about more customizations. We'll talk about some of that stuff within the phone like camera, some speed tests, and more in Microsoft and Nokia's latest flagship, the Lumia 928. Stay tuned for part 2.